Sarah here. Welcome to my studio. I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time a few months ago, and I love it. I can't believe I've never watched it before. Of course, I had to draw a spread in my sketchbook, and I wanted to challenge myself a bit more this time by using a limited color palette, specifically only using red, even for the sketch. I got some Prismacolor Colorase colored pencils a while back, and I've really enjoyed sketching with them. Sketching with the color almost makes me approach it differently. My only gripe is that they can smudge really easily, and the resulting fingerprints now all over the page will not erase. I will say there were so many screenshots I wanted to draw, but I couldn't fit them all on a single page. Originally, I did have a couple of Zuko's other designs included, but decided to cut them. A warning now, there will be major spoilers for Avatar: The Last Airbender in this video if you have not seen it yet. I think Zuko is probably my favorite character. I knew before I started watching the show that he ended up good, but I had no idea how that played out or when it happened, so I got all excited in Ba Sing Se when he worked in the tea shop and was flabbergasted when he backslid. It was torture watching him sway so much over the course of the show. The anticipation just waiting for Zuko to finally stay good. It made me very sad when the rest of the gang wouldn't accept him, but I don't blame them. They didn't see the struggle and character development we did that Zuko went through, which was really well written. When the writers of a show make you feel angry or sad for a character, that is just incredible writing. Speaking of everyone else, all of the characters are amazing in this show. Considering that it's meant for kids, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The jokes, Sokka specifically, the action, the emotions, the character development. I have also seen the newer live-action Netflix show, and while I did enjoy it, the pacing felt off to me since they skipped a lot of the fluff and just kind of went from one serious monologue to the next. The actions and effects were phenomenal though. It's definitely its own thing, not to be compared to the original. I will say, I'm surprised the Netflix show is rated PG. It got really dark sometimes, which I suppose made it more realistic, but yeah. I think the little random date Zuko has in Ba Sing Se is adorable. He was so clueless and didn't know how to react, and the girl was so forward. His nervous fiddling with his thumbs was funny, and specifically what I'm drawing now. The firelight scene at the fountain was beautiful, although I do wish Zuko hadn't run off. It definitely confuses me on what his whole deal with Mai was at that point. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of Zuko and Mai together, but that's a whole other thing. Zuko can be such a relatable character. He's so done with a lot of things or has no idea what's going on. It's interesting to see how Zuko learned to control his anger over the course of the series, and see the change in his drive and how he views firebending. On another note, drawing hoods can be confusing. You have to be careful not to cut off the form of the head underneath it. I do love drawing draping fabrics though. I'm not using all of my red art supplies, but I did dig out some I haven't used in a while. I'm counting some of the more pinks and orangey colors too, which helped with the skin especially, plus black and white. I don't know, is that cheating? What do you think? Either way, it definitely stretched how I usually think about coloring and how to layer different shades. Coloring this first one took a lot of experimenting and layering of different reds. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but at least I narrowed down the colors and took out some of the similar ones for coloring the rest of the spread. There were a lot of reds that looked nearly the same that were unnecessary and confusing to have out. Since I was still messing around and figuring out what I wanted to do, I ended up adding some details and fixing colors with colored pencils off camera for this one, but I'll show that process later. It was interesting to color the cast shadow from the hood on this one. So much of Zuko's face is in shadow, but there's still variation because of the forms of his face. The subsurface scattering at the edge of the hood shadow was also fun. This is from one of the scenes where he visits Iroh in prison, and that whole arc of Zuko backsliding and not knowing what to do with himself hurt. Although Iroh in prison was kind of funny, it was really sad to see him basically humiliate himself in front of the guards, but he turns around and is actually way stronger than before. My sister and I joked that he was buff Iroh. Now I knew what I was doing more with the details. This reddish gel pen is one of the supplies I pulled out from the back of the art cart that I haven't used before. I would definitely like to start using different colored gel pens for highlights in my art. This haircut for Zuko is probably one of my favorites. It's after the awkward growing out of the ponytail, but before it gets longer and messier. Although his fluffy hair is nice too, and fun to draw, if not a pain to get to look right. This little chibi was more interesting to color. Zuko's outfit is greener here, but of course I'm only using red, so I attempted to use the brownish reds, and my thought process was maybe it would look greener surrounded by all of the reds, because that's definitely how color theory works. Do you think it worked, or does it just look brown? Something I've been learning and working on recently is using hue shifts in my coloring, where you use a hue a bit to one side of the base color on the color wheel for the shadows and one to the other side for the highlights. It adds so much more liveliness and variation to the finished product. Of course, that is completely irrelevant for the spread because it's all one color, but hopefully I can talk about it more in a future video. It's been a lot of fun to mess around with, especially in some recent Draw This In Your styles I've participated in on Instagram. As you've seen multiple times in the coloring so far, I've been using this pink as an undertone for the shadows of the skin, which has added a lot of vibrance to it that I like. It's cool how doing more limiting challenges like this can really teach you things you might not have thought of before or tried. As for Zuko's hair, it's very dark, so I used black for the darker strands and blended it out with brown, with red on top to pull together the whole red spread. I used a similar technique with the tunic, putting down black for the shading and pretty heavily blending it out with my darkest red. It's really cool how each of the 4 bending elements have so many forms and different uses, like for waterbenders, manipulating plants and such, or how metal bending is a part of earth bending. It does confuse me a bit how firebenders don't need a source of fire, but the other 3 elements do need a source. I'm sure there's some fancy answer like the sun or something, though. This scene was super cool with the dragons and the fire, and hilarious how Zuko and Aang basically were sharing a brain cell. The fact fire can be so many different colors depending on the heat or element it touches is amazing and so beautiful. You know, it's really nice to have a better understanding of clothing folds now, and I enjoy shading clothes so much more. At this point, I had spent so much time on this spread and I was ready to be done, so I just kind of grabbed various reds and colored in the dragon with the correct values and left it at that. It was satisfying to add the final details to the page, and then I added a little Zuko sticker I have and some boxes to fill the page. Thank you so much for watching. Are you a fan of Avatar? Who's your favorite character? Let me know down in the comments. As always, don't forget that Jesus loves you.